I'll be real, most people reaching out to brands on Amazon are getting completely ignored. And it's not because the brands don't want to work with resellers. It is simply because the emails they're sending are, to be frank, terrible. Just generic emails, hitting up support emails, no value at all, just a, hey, can I buy from you? Look, I used to do the exact same thing when I first got started. I've been selling on Amazon for over 6 years now, and I've done over $40 million in sales. And it's because of these shifts we put into our email campaigns. In the last 90 days alone, we've opened up over 80 brand direct accounts for us and our students. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because we know exactly what to say, who to say to, and my favorite part, how to say it. In this video, I'm gonna give you the exact email framework that gets brands to open accounts with you. You can literally just copy this and start using it today. Let's get into it. So the first thing is we gotta build a good foundation. I use an example of one of our students, right? When I first met him, I won't call his name in case you ever meet him, but when I first met him, he was sending out almost 1,000 emails per day. And I'm like, okay, well, what is your open rate? What is your response rate? And everything was sub 1%. And I'm like, okay, well, let me check something. And I use the tool I'm gonna talk about in a little bit. Come to find out that literally less than 1% of people were even seeing his email because he was ending up in spam and promotion. So here's the thing. To start off with a good foundation, please understand this. Do not spam people. Send no more than 30 to 50 emails per day from your domain. No more than that, right? That is enough, because for every 100 emails, you should be actually closing one deal. We'll talk a little bit about that. So what you want to also do is, after you found your niche about sending 30 to 50 emails per day, you can use a tool called Google Postmaster, sync it to your domain, and check deliverability. You want to make sure you're staying out of spam, because it's a lot easier to get in there than it is to get out of there. If you do ever end up in there, just get a new email. It's pretty easy while we work on some other things that we'll talk about to actually get you out of spam, but it's way easier, just get a new one. Or you can use AI. One tool that's great is called Instantly.AI. Look, I do not own this tool, I'm just telling you what works. This is a tool that uses AI to actually send out emails and make sure you don't end up in spam, and it's really, really powerful, but I do think it's maybe like $50 a month, so it's not the cheapest thing for someone just getting started. The second thing is, okay, well, now I know I'm not gonna send more than 30 to 50. I choose to use AI, or I choose to just do it myself, and I know my deliverability is good. So what do I have to have in that email? Well, foundational speaking. If you have a website, which you should, you don't need it, but you should, have your website in your signature, your contact number, contact name, phone number, right? You wanna look as legitimate as humanly possible, right? The other thing you wanna do is make sure you're not emailing somebody from like jim123@gmail.com, right? You need a business email. Be clear, you are reaching out to brands who are business owners. They want to work with business owners, not Joe Schmo. So the more professional you look and come across, the better response rate you're gonna get. So you're gonna use something like Google Workspace and get an email, something like $7 to $10 a month, right? But you're gonna have your business name after the ad. So it'll be like jim@jimdistributions.com. And in the email, after we'll talk about the email in a second, at the end of the signature, it's gonna have your name, your website, your contact number, right? And even spice it up, put a logo in there. So when they open that email, like, okay, Jim is serious, right? If your name is Jim, I'm just using it as an example, but make sure you look as professional as humanly possible in your emails. It's important. Now, the other thing, before we get into the actual what's in the email, is you wanna make sure you are contacting what we call the decision maker. This is what I see all the time. People say, man, I reached out to so many brands and they absolutely freaking hate working with me. First of all, that's a good thing. I'll tell you why in a second, because that's where their money is. But the second thing is 99% of the time, this is who they're reaching out to. A random person at the company that does not care left or right about what they're coming to say. So here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to just go to a brand's website and go to their contact us or support page and pull whatever email and contact number they have up there, right? That's low-hanging fruit. That is probably like a virtual assistant or like a front desk agent at the company who doesn't really care what you gotta say. They are trained to say no. So you always wanna make sure you have the email for the decision maker in the business. Think someone like the CEO, the CMO, the COO, the owner, right? Someone that calls the shots, the sales manager, right? How do you do that? You can use AI. It's pretty simple. We personally in-house have an AI tool that does this for us, which makes it really, really cool for us, but you can just use AI to pull those out. But make sure you're contacting the decision maker to actually be able to close the deal. That's the only person that you can negotiate deals with, discounts, all the fun stuff. So don't waste your time on the wrong email. Now, getting into what's actually gonna be in the email. Now, consider like if you ever watch like an Instagram or TikTok video, which I'm sure you have, consider your subject line like the hook. We all know on social media, like the first 3 to 5 seconds of what you say is what hooks someone in, gets them to watch it, gets you more views, all of that fun stuff. Same thing in your hook. I'll use an example. Check your inbox right now. I dare you. You probably have hundreds, if not thousands of emails there that you have not opened, have not read, have not taken any action on. Why? Because the subject line was absolutely horrible. It didn't catch your attention. It didn't speak to you or anything. So here's what you need to understand. That subject line with email and companies and brands is your hook, okay? So there's 3 types of hooks that I like to use. One is an authority-based hook. What does that mean? I'm gonna say, well, I have a little more authority, right? I've been in the space for 6 years. So I'll say, after $40 million in sales on Amazon, I found out what's holding your revenue back, or something like that. You're gonna be like, oh shit, man, 40 million, let me open this up, right? You might say, you might not have the authority yet, so you might be able to skip one like this, right? But whatever authority you can say, let's say you're in a sector right now where you work with a bunch of beauty companies outside of Amazon, right? You could say that. I've worked with over 100 brands and I figured out something that can help them get more money. Boom, right? Creative, right, at the end of the day. But authority-based hooks separate you from everyone else. My favorite one, I'll get to in a second, but the other one is a question-based hook, right? Ask a question, right? Did you know you were missing out on a few $100,000 or like $200,000 per month in revenue on your Amazon business? And you can put at the end, like, here's why, right? But a question just literally opens it up. It's an open loop where they want to actually get close to it, so they open your email. But the third type of hook is honestly my favorite, is a pain point. You are missing out on this much revenue because no one is taking control of your Amazon listing, right? So all of these creative ways of saying something, authority, pain point, or question, what it does is it draws someone in. People always do stuff like this. Man, my hook is gonna say, Amazon wholesale account, question mark? You're like, God damn, dude, you don't even wanna open that when I just said it, right? So we wanna make sure we're catching someone's attention. It's so important, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about what kind of rates we look for with this, but please, 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 battle test some, figure out what's working, and then you can scale from there. Now, after you actually figure out your hook and you have a good open rate, which we'll talk about in a second, the next thing is you need to test different body copies, long and short. And why I say this is so important, because different niches respond different to different types of body copy. You'd be surprised, right? Some of the niches that are like completely like overworked with so many sellers, they don't want to see any long text. They're like, man, forget that stuff. So they want to see something short, direct, and to the point. Versus someone that haven't been tapped to, they would like to know probably a little more about you before they get on the call, because they're more focused on like retail stores. Like a good example would be like tools versus beauty prefers like short copy, right? But you want to battle test a few different versions, right? I always have to put a personal touch in it. So I will always say my name in there. I will always say where my company's from, where I'm from. If I have worked with any other brands, I add that in there, in their category, right? I'll say things like I'm looking to spend X amount of money with their brand. Not saying that I'll spend on the first order, but always segment in a way where it's like, okay, cool, this person's looking to get into business with me for the long term. But I'm still using what I'm saying in the email to generate a response. And I'll tell you, I'm not looking for a yes, right? I spoke about a little bit more about this earlier, but I'm not looking for a yes, actually. I'll tell you what I'm looking for in a second, right? But different body copies allow you to battle test what's actually working. Now, the first thing you have to get right is your subject line, okay? At our company, if we do not have a 30% or more open rate on our emails, we go into war. Like, we're yelling at the whole team, right? 30% or more open rate, that's it, right? 1 out of every 3 people have to open our email. That's good, okay? 5% positive response rate. After they read our body copy, what happens is 5% of people should have a positive response to us. Like, what's up, man? And we should be able to close 1 to 2 profitable deals from that. So what does that mean? For every 100 people we reach out to, 30 to 33 respond, open the email. 5 of them respond positively, or we get to foster the conversation with, and 1 to 2 profitable deals. We do this every week. And we send out 400 emails every week, and we close 8 profitable brand deals every week using the system, this email funnel. Now, you might be like, 8 deals, 8 brands is not a lot. You gotta understand, right? When we're targeting brands that do up to like $3 million a month in revenue, right? 8 deals can end up being a ton. Right now, on average, those 8 deals equate to something to the tune of an extra $200,000 in top line revenue every single month for us. Why? Because we just follow this system. But the only way you get the system right is when you create a system. So you gotta first make sure your open rate is good. Then you gotta test different body copies to make sure people actually wanna respond, right? Be okay with testing it after your open rate is good. And then you wanna make sure this key component, that they said no. You're gonna be like, what? I want them to say yes to get in business. You have to think about it like this. If you email a brand and they say yes on the first email, that means they probably say yes to a lot of people. Does anyone think that that's where the majority of the money is gonna be? No. I absolutely hate when brands say yes. I'm like, that's another one, man. It's gonna be a little itty bitty piece of money, right? But when they say no, ooh, I love that. Why? Because that's when you follow up but something that provides them with value. We have a few different ways, and I'll go into it. It's a little special. I wasn't gonna do this, but it's special, right? When a brand says no, right, you have to hit them with more value. So we have a few different ways. We have an AI tool that creates like a brand report that shows them what the competitors are doing that they're not doing. They're like, oh man, I'm missing out on that much money. Let's get on a call, right? They want to make money. Number two, we can send something called a custom video pitch, which is literally like me using a software like Loom or something, shooting something and telling them exactly what their revenue gap is. Similar to the brand report, just way more personal because they get to see me talking about it and it's video, so people respond better to video. The third way is giving them a call. Like our head of brand outreach name is Nadia on our team. She's an absolute master on the phone. She's not even from the US, but she's a master. She get on the phone and close deals like nonstop. She's a freaking beast on the phone. I don't like the phone that much. I like the first two options, but all three work. So there's three ways after someone says no to get them back in the door. You can also send like a regular follow-up email, but those are my favorite three ways. So when brands say no, I'm telling you, that is where most sellers say, see you later, but that's where we make the most amount of money. Using that last brand I just spoke about, that does over $300,000 per month. They gave us an exclusive deal. They said no to us at first. We fought back a little bit, gave them some value, got on the phone, closed it within 2 phone calls, adds another $3.6 million in top line revenue to our business, right? With over $1.5 million in net profit per year to our business from 2 phone calls. This is why it's so important to make sure your emails are done correctly. You're actually tracking the metrics we spoke about today. And when they say no, you actually know how to handle it. So that's the exact email framework we use to get 8 brand accounts per week open. It's not magic. It's just knowing how to communicate value instead of showing up like every other seller begging for a deal. Look, if you want the full outreach system plus scripts, follow-ups, phone calls, all of that, hit the link below to jump on our next completely free live workshop where I'm gonna be walking all through it. Look, we break down something called a triple S framework. Number 1 is sourcing, how to find the absolute best products that sell month after month, year after year on Amazon. Number 2 is selling. How in the world do I operate this machine while I still have a bunch of stuff to do like work, kids, my wife, everybody bothering me, right? I've been there. I was working 90 hours per week. Didn't have a wife at the time, but I was working 90 hours per week for the Department of Education in New York, and I was burnt out, but still using this system, it allowed me to scale up enough to leave my job and now have an 8-figure per year business. And my favorite part, this is the icing on the cake, is scaling. How do I make more money while working less hours? We talk about leverage right there, right? Can't stress this enough. This is all about building the right business, not just finding the right product. Or if you want to get the chance to work with us one-on-one, you could hit the other link to book a call with our team and see if you're a good fit. Either way, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I hope this helped because we drop videos every single week about everything we've learned over the past 6 years of building an 8-figure business and everything we're still learning to scale up to $20 million a year in our business, right? It is a grow-on game because AI is coming through. Anyway, I hope this helped. See you in the next one. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. Later.